The air in Pinewood was heavy that summer night, the kind of thick southern heat that made sweat cling to the skin. Jamal walked slowly down Main Street, his sneakers scuffing against the cracked sidewalk. The new streetlights buzzed above, bright as white suns. They had been put in just 2 weeks ago, part of the mayor's promise to make Pinewood modern and safe. At first, Jamal thought the lights were normal. But he noticed something strange. When he walked under them, they seemed to flare, brighter than before, casting sharp shadows around him. When his friend Sam, who was white, walked beside him, the lights stayed dimmer, softer, almost gentle. It bothered Jamal, but he didn't say much. Not at first. Pinewood was the kind of town where speaking up could make you a target. His mama always said, "Keep your head down, baby. Safety comes first." But Jamal couldn't unsee it. The lights knew his skin. They didn't just see him, they judged him. He tested it. He asked Sam to walk ahead of him, and the lamps glowed low. When Jamal stepped forward, they flared again, almost accusing. Sam laughed it off at first, saying, "Maybe it's just a glitch." But Jamal felt his stomach twist. This wasn't a glitch. It was design. Someone had told the lights what to do. That night, lying in bed, Jamal stared at the cracked ceiling, heart pounding. He had always known Pinewood had 2 sets of rules, one for boys like him, and another for boys like Sam. But now even the machines knew it. The streetlights weren't just shining. They were speaking. And their message was loud and clear. Jamal decided he wouldn't stay quiet. He needed to find out who had given the lights their voice. The next morning, Jamal met up with Sam at the corner store. Sam was eating a bag of chips, his blonde hair messy, his smile careless. Jamal told him what he'd decided. "We need to figure out who programmed those lights," Jamal said. "Somebody told them to act like that." Sam shrugged. "Maybe it's just the company. Maybe it's like safety stuff. You know, so the lights brighten when someone's out at night." Jamal narrowed his eyes. "Then why do they only brighten for me? Not you. Not Mrs. Green walking her dog. Just me. Just people who look like me." Sam's smile faded. He looked down, suddenly uncomfortable. "I mean, maybe it's just the way it's set. Like detection or something." Jamal shook his head. "No. It ain't just detection. It's judgment." Sam didn't answer. He just stuffed more chips into his mouth, chewing fast. Jamal felt a wave of frustration. Sam didn't get it, not really. He didn't know what it felt like to live in a world that was always lit up, always watching, always accusing. That night, Jamal biked to the library. The streetlights followed him, blazing as if they were chasing. He sat at one of the dusty computers and searched for the company name painted on the side of the power box, Bright Future Technologies. He found their website, sleek and modern, filled with words like innovation and public safety. But buried in a PDF manual, Jamal found something chilling. A setting called Enhanced Illumination Protocol. It described how the lights could use camera sensors to adjust brightness based on perceived threat level. And in a line of fine print, algorithm calibrated using regional demographic data. His throat tightened. He knew what that meant. The lights weren't broken. They were built to see people like him as threats. Jamal leaned back in the chair, anger burning in his chest. Pinewood's mayor had installed these lights to keep everyone safe. But who was everyone? Not him. Not his mama. Not his little cousins. The streetlights had learned to speak, but they were speaking an old, hateful language. And Jamal decided he was going to make them shut up. Jamal didn't know much about hacking, but he knew someone who did. Marcus, the quiet boy in his math class, the one who never looked up from his laptop. People called him Ghost because he always disappeared after school, slipping away like smoke. The next day, Jamal caught Marcus at his locker. "Hey," he said, trying to sound casual. "You know computers, right?" Marcus gave him a quick glance, eyes sharp behind his glasses. Why? I need help. With the streetlights. Marcus froze. What about them? They're wrong, Jamal said. They're built to watch me. To shine brighter on me. Like I'm some kind of danger. Marcus didn't laugh. He didn't shrug it off like Sam had. He just nodded, slow and serious. I noticed, he whispered. They flare on my street too. On me. Jamal felt a rush of relief. Someone else understood. Marcus looked around to make sure no one was listening, then leaned closer. I can get into their system. Maybe. But it's risky. They got contracts with the town. Cameras everywhere. If they catch us. I don't care, Jamal said. They're already catching me every time I walk outside. Every light, every corner. They already see me. Marcus studied him for a long moment. Then he shut his locker. Meet me at the library tonight. After dark. That evening, Jamal sat across from Marcus at the library table. Marcus's laptop glowed between them. His fingers flew over the keys, pulling up codes and maps of Pinewood streets. This is their network, Marcus whispered. Every light is connected. Cameras, sensors, all feeding back to Bright Future. Jamal leaned in, heart pounding. Can we change it? Marcus hesitated. If we do, the town will notice. The mayor. The company. They'll know somebody messed with it. Good, Jamal said. His voice was steady now, like steel. Let them notice. Marcus's laptop hummed as lines of green code filled the screen. His eyes narrowed, concentration sharp. Jamal sat across from him, tapping his foot under the table, nerves running like fire in his veins. They got firewalls, Marcus whispered. But they ain't perfect. It's just corporate security. If I move slow, I can slip in. The library was nearly empty, just the old clock ticking on the wall. Outside, Jamal could see the bright street lamps blazing like white eyes against the night. They almost seemed to lean closer, watching the library windows. Okay, Marcus said, typing fast. I'm in the outer network. These lights run on an adaptive system. I can see the logs. What do the logs say? Jamal asked. Marcus's face twisted. Threat detection. Timestamps. And look here, race identifiers. They coded the system to brighten for certain features. Darker skin, bigger body shapes, hoodie detection. All labeled as high risk. Jamal's stomach clenched. So it's not just me. It's all of us. Marcus nodded. Every walk home, every trip to the store. They've been tracking. A chill ran down Jamal's spine. He thought of his little cousin Malik, just 12 years old, riding his bike under those same lights. Already branded dangerous before he even had a chance to grow. Change it, Jamal said, his voice tight. Make it fair. Marcus's fingers flew. I can rewrite the brightness settings. Make them dim the same for everyone. No more detection. Just equal. The cursor blinked on the screen, waiting. Marcus looked up. You sure? Once I hit enter, this whole town will notice. Somebody will come looking. Cops, the mayor, maybe even Bright Future. We won't be invisible anymore. Jamal took a deep breath. Good. Let them see what it feels like. Marcus pressed the key. Outside, every streetlight in Pinewood flickered. The bright white glare softened to a calm, even glow. For the first time, Jamal felt the dark wasn't accusing him. It was simply night again, quiet, equal, free. But deep in Bright Future's servers, alarms began to ring. The change was noticed within hours. By morning, half the town was buzzing with confusion. Sheriff Turner stood outside the diner, squinting up at the softer streetlights. Don't look right, he muttered. They're supposed to flare when there's a person around. Safety feature. Inside, the mayor, a red-faced man named Clark, slammed his coffee down. This town paid good money for those lights. If they're not working, that's a problem. Call Bright Future. Tell them to send someone down here. But Jamal wasn't at the diner. He was at school, walking through the halls with Marcus. The lights outside the building had dimmed too, no longer stabbing into his eyes like searchlights. For the first time, he didn't feel the world glaring at him. Think they'll know it was us? Jamal whispered. Marcus shrugged, though his lips were tight. Not yet. But they'll know somebody touched it. And they'll come looking. Jamal's heart thudded. He wasn't scared for himself, not exactly. He was scared for his mama, for Malik, for everyone who had to live under those lights. But he also felt something new, something dangerous, hope. At lunch, Sam slid into the seat beside him. Hey, man. Did you see the lights? They're all dim now. Whole town's freaking her out. Yeah, I saw, Jamal said carefully. Sam grinned. It's kinda cool. Like, the whole town feels different at night. Less creepy. Jamal studied him. So you like it? Yeah. Don't you? Jamal didn't answer. Sam didn't know. He didn't know the cost of being seen, the burn of being judged by every beam of light. But maybe now, just maybe, he would start to notice. That night, Jamal biked home under the softer glow. For the first time in weeks, the lights didn't chase him. They just lit the road, nothing more. But as he turned onto his street, he noticed something else. A white van parked near the corner, no plates, engine running. The logo on its side made his stomach drop. Bright Future Technologies. The van didn't move. Jamal slowed his bike, heart hammering. The tinted windows gave nothing away. He could feel eyes on him, even if he couldn't see them. He hurried inside his house, slamming the door. His mama looked up from the couch. What's wrong, baby? Nothing, Jamal lied, trying to steady his breath. But his hand shook. That night, he couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the Bright Future logo staring back at him. By morning, news had spread. Bright Future technicians were in town, working with the mayor to fix the system. At school, Marcus looked pale. They'll roll back the changes, he said. All of it. Back to the way it was. Then we'll do it again, Jamal said. Marcus shook his head. They'll tighten security now. And if they catch us, his voice trailed off. But Jamal wasn't listening. He was staring out the window at the parking lot. Another Bright Future van was parked there, men in grey uniforms unloading equipment. Cameras, laptops, strange black boxes. Jamal clenched his fists. They don't want safety. They want control. Marcus closed his laptop with a snap. If we're gonna fight them, we need more than just me and you. Jamal nodded slowly. Then let's find people who know what it feels like to live under those lights. People who are ready to stop being watched. Marcus leaned back, eyes sharp. You mean a crew? Yeah, Jamal said. A crew. And that was the night Jamal decided he wouldn't just hack the lights. He would turn the whole town against them. Word spread fast through Pinewood. By the end of the week, nearly everyone had noticed the difference in the streetlights. Some said they liked the softer glow, it felt less like living in a prison yard. Others complained that the lights were too dim, that they didn't feel safe anymore. At breakfast, Jamal overheard his mama talking with Mrs. Green next door. Ever since they changed, I feel calmer, Mrs. Green said. I walk my dog at night, and it feels normal again. Not like I'm under some spotlight. But Mama shook her head. The mayor's not gonna let it stay like this. You watch. They'll say it's about safety, but we both know who they mean when they say a danger. Jamal stirred his cereal. Quiet. His mama didn't know he was the reason the lights had changed. She didn't know bright future vans were rolling into town because of him. At school, Marcus cornered him by the lockers. I started reaching out to people. Quietly. There's a group of kids who've been watching the same thing happen on their streets. Some of them want to fight back. Jamal raised his eyebrows. Who? Keisha. Her brother got stopped last week under the lights. Cops said he looked suspicious because the lamp flared. And Donnell, too. He told me he feels like he's under trial every time he walks home. Jamal felt something stir in his chest. For so long, it had felt like just him. But now he saw it wasn't just his fight. That afternoon, Marcus led him to the abandoned gym near the edge of town. Inside, the air smelled of dust and wood rot. A handful of kids sat in the bleachers, their faces tense but determined. Keisha was the first to speak. We know you messed with the lights. We ain't mad. We're glad. But bright future's here now. They're gonna flip it back. Question is, what do we do about it? The silence that followed was heavy, thick with fear and hope. Jamal stood, his voice steady. We don't just stop them. We show this whole town what they've been letting happen. We make Pinewood see itself in the dark. That night, Jamal dreamed of fireflies. Thousands of them, flickering in the sky, glowing free without rules or wires. But when he woke, the reality was colder. Pinewood streets buzzed with trucks and men in grey uniforms. Bright Future had moved fast. By morning, they were climbing ladders, hooking laptops to the poles, running wires across the sidewalks. The mayor stood nearby, arms folded, nodding as if victory was already his. They're rolling back the system, Marcus whispered as he and Jamal watched from a distance. By tonight, the lights will flare again. On us. On everyone they coded as a threat. Jamal's fists clenched. He couldn't let it happen. But how could they fight a whole company, with money, power, and the law behind them? That afternoon, Keisha called a meeting in the gym. The group gathered again, this time buzzing with nervous energy. We can't just sit back, Keisha said. If we do, it's back to the same old story. Lights burning holes in our skin. Cops waiting under the glow. But what can we do? Donnell asked. They got tech, they got cops, they got the mayor. We just kids. Jamal stepped forward. We ain't just kids. We're the ones they built it against. That means we know it better than they do. We live it. And if Marcus can hack it once, he can do it again. But this time, we don't just dim the lights. We show the truth. We make the whole town see what the lights are really saying. Marcus blinked. You mean I expose the code? Broadcast it? Yeah, Jamal said, his voice firm. Turn their own system against them. Make the lights speak for us. The group fell silent. Then Keisha nodded slowly. Let's do it. And for the first time, Jamal felt it, the power of not being alone. The plan was risky. Marcus explained it in the dim gym, his laptop glowing like a secret fire. Every light has a speaker system built in. They were supposed to use it for public safety, like amber alerts or weather warnings. But if I crack into the core, I can hijack it. I can make the lights talk. Talk? Keisha asked. Marcus nodded. Read out the logs. The threat detection reports. The proof of what they coded in. Every racist line, every bias they tried to hide. The whole town will hear it. Jamal's chest tightened. He pictured it, every streetlight in Pinewood speaking the truth out loud, the whole town unable to look away. It was bold. It was dangerous. It was exactly what they needed. But we'll need time, Marcus said. And we'll need someone on the ground, near the main server. Bright Future's got it locked up in a trailer by the courthouse. Without that, we can't trigger the broadcast. Keisha smirked. That's where I come in. My aunt cleans the courthouse. I can get close. The group leaned in, voices hushed, planning deep into the night. The gym creaked, the old walls listening. When they finally slipped out, the streets were quiet. The bright future vans were still parked on the corners, engines humming. Jamal felt the eyes of the town on him, human and machine alike. But he also felt something new, purpose. For once, he wasn't just surviving the lights. He was preparing to make them speak a truth they were never meant to carry. And Pinewood wasn't ready for what was coming. The courthouse sat in the center of Pinewood like a stone guardian, its white columns chipped and stained with years of storms. Behind it, a temporary trailer buzzed with electricity, cables spilling from its doors like tangled roots. That was Bright Future's control hub, and it was the heart of their power. Keisha walked past it with her aunt that morning, carrying a mop bucket. She kept her eyes down, but her pulse thudded in her ears. She could see the glow of monitors through the trailer windows, men in grey uniforms leaning over keyboards, their voices low and sharp. Her aunt nudged her. "Don't stare, girl. Just keep moving." Keisha nodded, but inside her mind, she was memorizing every detail, how many guards, where the doors were, how the wires ran. She needed to bring it all back to Jamal and Marcus. That night, the crew gathered again in the abandoned gym. Keisha drew a rough map in chalk on the floor. 2 men inside, maybe 3. 1 outside smoking. Only 1 door in. But the wires, they stretch all the way to the pole by the corner. If we can tap in there, we don't even have to step inside. Marcus leaned over, scanning the map. If we can reach the junction box by that pole, I can reroute the signal. The lights will listen to us instead of Bright Future. But that corner's watched, Donnell said. Cops pass it every 15 minutes. Silence fell. Everyone looked at Jamal. He felt the weight of their eyes like the lights themselves. "I'll do it," Jamal said. His voice was calm, steady. "They already look at me like I don't belong. Might as well give them a reason." Keisha's face tightened. "If they catch you?" "They won't," Jamal said, cutting her off. "Because you'll all have my back." The group nodded, one by one. The plan was set. Tomorrow night, the lights of Pinewood would speak, not for the mayor, not for Bright Future, but for the kids who lived beneath them. The next day crawled by like a bad dream. At school, Jamal sat through class but didn't hear a word. His mind was full of junction boxes, flashing sirens, and Marcus's voice telling him the exact wires to cut. When the final bell rang, Jamal and Marcus slipped into the library. Marcus pulled up his laptop, code running across the screen like a secret language. "Tonight's the night," Marcus said quietly. "Once you tap the wires, I'll trigger the upload. The logs, the voice files, it'll all play through the lights. Pinewood won't be able to ignore it." Jamal leaned back, heart pounding. He wasn't afraid for himself anymore. He was afraid of what came after, what the town would do once the truth was out in the open. At home, his mama made fried chicken and sweet tea. Jamal tried to eat, but his stomach twisted. "You okay, baby?" she asked. "Yeah," he lied. But as he chewed, he thought, if this works, maybe she won't ever have to tell me to keep my head down again. Maybe Malik can ride his bike without feeling like a suspect. When night finally came, the crew met at the edge of the courthouse lawn. The air was heavy with heat, the cicadas loud in the trees. The Bright Future trailer glowed faintly, its cable snaking to the nearest pole. "There," Marcus whispered, pointing. "That's the junction. You just got to pull the cover, clip the red and blue, and plug in this." He handed Jamal a small device, no bigger than a phone. "Once it's in, the lights belong to us." Jamal nodded. His hands were steady now. He slipped across the lawn, staying in the shadows. But as he reached the pole, his blood froze. The smoking guard wasn't there anymore. Instead, a flashlight beam cut across the grass. "Who's there?" a voice barked. Jamal ducked, pressing himself against the pole. His breath caught in his throat. The beam of light swept closer, searching. From the shadows, Keisha hissed, "Move." But Jamal stayed still, waiting. The guard's boots crunched on the gravel, his steps heavy. Then, just as the flashlight neared, a sound split the night. A glass bottle shattered on the pavement near the trailer. The guard turned sharply, muttering a curse, and stomped toward the noise. Jamal looked up. On the far side of the lawn, Donnell waved, a mischievous grin flashing before he vanished behind a tree. "Go," Keisha whispered. Jamal yanked the metal cover open, wires spilling out like veins. His hands worked fast, red and blue clipped, Marcus's device clicking into place. Sparks jumped, making him flinch, but he held steady. "Connection made," Marcus whispered through his earpiece. His fingers danced over his laptop back at the gym. "Uploading, now." Jamal pressed the cover shut and ducked back into the shadows just as the guard stomped back, grumbling. The device was hidden. The wires were live. And then, all across Pinewood, the streetlights flickered. Every bulb hummed, brighter, then dimmer, like they were breathing. People stepped out of houses, confused. Cars slowed on Main Street. And then, the lights began to speak. This log recorded at 10:42 p.m., a mechanical voice boomed. Detected subject, dark skin tone. Classification, high risk. Gasps filled the street. The voice continued. Log recorded at 11:06 p.m. Detected subject, hoodie. Classification, suspicious. House by house, block by block, Pinewood listened as the truth poured from the lamps. Line after line, the hidden bias came alive, echoing through the night. The lights had learned to speak, but now they were speaking for Jamal. The town froze. People stood in the streets, staring up at the lamps as the voices rolled on. Log recorded, subject male, skin tone dark. Response, increased brightness. Alert level, moderate threat. On and on it went, a relentless confession. Every ugly line of code, every silent judgment the town had paid for. The light screamed it all into the night. On Main Street, the diner doors flew open. Sheriff Turner stormed out, his face pale. "Turn it off," he shouted, waving at the bright future men. But the technicians were already scrambling, laptops open, fingers flying. "We've lost control," one muttered. "Somebody's hijacked the system." The mayor's face turned red. "Find them! Shut it down!" But there was no shutting it down. The light spoke from every corner, every pole, every block. Families huddled on porches, neighbors whispering, children pointing. For the first time, the hidden rules of Pinewood weren't whispers in the dark, they were loud, undeniable, written in light. Jamal stood in the shadows with his crew, listening. His chest swelled with a mix of fear and pride. They had done it. They had made the town listen. But as the final log echoed through the streets, subject, group of dark-skinned youths. Classification, high risk, potential gang activity, Jamal felt the weight of eyes on him. This wasn't just exposure. This was war. The sheriff grabbed his radio, barking orders. Bright future men rushed to their vans. The mayor shouted at the crowd. And Jamal knew the night wasn't over. The lights had spoken. Now the town would answer. The sheriff's voice cracked through the radio, sharp as broken glass. "All units, move now. Lock down the courthouse square. Someone's hijacked the system." Sirens wailed, shattering the night. Police cruisers rolled down Main Street, red and blue lights flashing against the softer glow of the hacked lamps. Bright future vans pulled away from the curbs, speeding toward the trailer hub. But the streetlights kept speaking. Recorded log, 9:22 p.m. Subject, male, age estimated 12. Classification, moderate threat. Response, increased brightness, alert notified. A woman in the crowd gasped. "That's my son's route home." Whispers turned to shouts. Neighbors looked at each other with wide eyes, some angry, some afraid. The truth was out, and it was cutting deep. Jamal crouched in the shadows near the gym with Marcus, Keisha, and the others. He could see people filling the sidewalks, arguing, pointing fingers. "They can't deny it now," Keisha whispered. "Everyone hears it." But Marcus wasn't smiling. His fingers flew across his keyboard. "They're trying to trace us. They're running sweeps through the network. Can they find us?" Jamal asked. "Not yet," Marcus said, jaw tight. "But once they realize we tapped the courthouse junction, they'll start looking for who was close. We gotta move." The crew scattered down back alleys, hearts racing, as the town lit up with chaos. Near the courthouse, the mayor climbed onto the steps, his face red with rage. "This is sabotage," he shouted into a bullhorn. "A crime against this town's safety. Whoever did this is endangering us all." But his words were drowned out by the lights. Recorded log, 8:15 p.m. Subject, woman, skin tone dark. Classification, moderate threat. Response, increased brightness. Mrs. Green pushed through the crowd, pointing at the mayor. "That's me. That's my street. You said these lights were for safety." "Safety for who?" The sheriff tried to calm her, but more voices joined. The crowd surged. Shouts rose. The streetlights had revealed the truth, and the town was splitting under it. The crowd outside the courthouse grew unruly. Some shouted for justice, demanding answers from the mayor and bright future. Others screamed back, insisting the lights had kept them safe and that whoever broke them should be punished. The sheriff barked orders, but the tension boiled hotter by the minute. Jamal and his crew ducked into an alley 2 blocks away. They could still hear the metallic voice of the lamps echoing, relentless. Recorded log, 11:51 p.m. Subject, male, hoodie, dark skin tone. Classification, high risk. Response, brightness maximum. Patrol notified. Keisha's eyes brimmed with fury. "That's my brother." They called the cops on him for walking home. Jamal clenched his fists. He thought of Malik, thought of himself, thought of every night he'd felt the lights burning him alive. And now the whole town could hear the lies dressed up as safety. But Marcus snapped his laptop shut. "We can't stay here. They'll be searching alleys, rooftops, everywhere. We gotta disappear before they start rounding people up." "Disappear where?" Donnell asked. Marcus hesitated, then said, "The old train yard. Nobody goes there anymore. Too far out, too broken down. We can lay low and figure our next move." They slipped through back streets, ducking between fences, keeping low whenever a cruiser passed. Jamal's pulse pounded, but he kept moving. When they reached the train yard, the silence was thick. Rusted boxcars sat like sleeping giants, weeds growing high around their wheels. They ducked inside one of the boxcars. Keisha lit a small flashlight. The crew sat in a circle, breathing hard. "What now?" Donnell whispered. The group looked at Jamal. His heart thudded under the weight of their stares. "The light spoke," he said slowly. "Now the town's awake. They can't pretend no more. But this fight ain't over. Bright future won't stop. The mayor won't stop. So neither can we." The boxcar fell silent. And then, from far away, the sound of helicopters filled the night. The spotlight of a helicopter swept across Pinewood, cutting through the dark like a blade. The crew huddled low in the boxcar, their breath shallow. "They're bringing in choppers now," Keisha whispered. "For streetlights." "They think we're terrorists," Marcus muttered. "To them, exposing the truth is an attack." Jamal's chest tightened. He peered out through a crack in the boxcar. The helicopter circled above the courthouse square, its beams searching the crowd below. Down there, the fight had exploded. On one side, townsfolk were yelling at the mayor, demanding answers. On the other, bright future men tried to shove their way through with equipment. The sheriff's deputies formed a line, pushing people back. The lamps still spoke, one line after another, every word gasoline on the fire. Recorded log, 7:59 p.m. Subject, child, age estimated 9. Skin tone dark. Classification, potential threat. The crowd roared. Mothers screamed. Fathers shouted curses. People shoved against the sheriff's line. It's turning into a riot, Donnell said, voice trembling. Jamal pulled back from the crack. Good. Let the town see what safety really costs. But Marcus shook his head. You don't get it. If this blows too far, they'll call in the state police. Maybe the feds. They'll lock this whole town down and we'll take the blame. Jamal's stomach dropped. He hadn't thought that far. He just wanted Pinewood to see the truth. But now the truth was a storm, and it was spinning out of control. We got to stay ahead, Jamal said finally. If Bright Future takes the system back, they'll bury it. Pretend it never happened. We need proof that can't be erased. Marcus's eyes flickered. You mean, copy the logs? Download everything. Leak it beyond Pinewood. Exactly, Jamal said. If the world hears it, Bright Future can't hide. The boxcar went quiet. Kisha's flashlight cast long shadows on the metal walls. Finally, Marcus opened his laptop again. All right. Let's burn them all the way down. Marcus's fingers raced across the keys, the glow of his laptop the only light in the boxcar. Jamal leaned close, watching the lines of code pour down the screen. I'm copying everything, Marcus whispered. Every log, every file. If we upload this to the right places, the whole world will know what Bright Future built. Jamal's chest tightened. How fast can you do it? Fast enough. But we need a connection strong enough to push the files out. The library Wi-Fi won't cut it. Bright Future's probably watching it already. Kisha shifted uneasily. So where do we go? Marcus paused, then said, there's one place. My uncle runs a radio tower outside town. Old thing, barely used anymore, but it's got a direct satellite line. If we can get there, I can send this to news outlets, watchdog groups, everywhere at once. They can't erase it all. Then that's where we go, Jamal said. The group nodded. Outside, sirens wailed closer. They slipped from the boxcar, moving through the weeds and rusted tracks. The night air was heavy, the roar of helicopters circling overhead. As they crept through back streets, Jamal caught glimpses of Pinewood unraveling. Crowds clashing with deputies. Windows broken at the courthouse square. Shouts echoing, raw with anger. The lamps kept booming, voice after voice, the truth echoing like thunder. By the time they reached Marcus's uncle's tower, the eastern sky was paling with dawn. The tower rose high above the trees, its steel frame creaking in the morning wind. Marcus unlocked a padlocked gate with shaking hands. This is it, he said, leading them inside the control shack. Dust and wires covered the walls. An old console blinked faintly, waiting. He set the laptop down, plugged in cables, and typed furiously. Okay. Once I hit send, it's gone. Newsrooms, activists, online boards, it'll be everywhere. Jamal placed a hand on his shoulder. Do it. Marcus hit enter. The files surged outward, across the satellite link, spilling Bright Future's secrets into the world. And for the first time, Jamal felt the fight was bigger than Pinewood. By noon, Pinewood was no longer just a small southern town. It was breaking news. On TV screens in diners, headlines blared, smart streetlights targeting black residents. On phones across the country, videos spread of Pinewood's lamps booming their ugly lines of code. Hashtags trended. Comment sections exploded. Bright Future issued a statement within hours, denying everything. Our systems are designed for safety, not discrimination, their spokesman said, his face pale on live broadcast. This is the work of malicious hackers spreading misinformation. But it was too late. The logs were out. Screenshots, audio files, whole codebooks, they flooded the internet. Engineers dissected them, exposing the bias line by line. Civil rights groups called for investigations. In Pinewood, the mayor was cornered. Reporters swarmed the courthouse. Families shouted questions. Deputies struggled to control the crowd. "This is lies," Mayor Clark bellowed from the steps. "Fake news. These kids are criminals." But Mrs. Green stood up in the crowd, holding her son's backpack high. "That's my child they flagged as a threat. You can't call that fake." The crowd roared with her. From their hideout in the tower shack, Jamal and his crew watched the chaos unfold on Marcus's laptop, live-streamed from every angle. Jamal's heart pounded as he saw Pinewood on national screens. "We did it," Keisha whispered. "They can't hide anymore." But Marcus's expression was grim. "We hit them hard, yeah. But Bright Future's a billion-dollar company. They won't just roll over. They'll come after us." Jamal clenched his fists. "Then let them come. We ain't hiding anymore." At that moment, his phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number lit up the screen. "We know who you are. Stop now, or your family pays." Jamal stared at the words, cold creeping into his chest. The fight had gone national. But now it was personal. Reporters were everywhere. Bright Future lawyers arrived in black cars. Federal agents were rumored to be on the way. And Jamal couldn't stop staring at his phone. "Who sent it?" Keisha asked, her eyes wide as she read the message over his shoulder. "Bright Future," Marcus muttered. "Or somebody working for them. They're scared. If they weren't, they wouldn't threaten him. But if they know it's Jamal," Donnell started. "They don't just know," Jamal interrupted. His voice was low, steady, but his hand shook. "They're saying if I don't stop, they'll go after my mama. My little cousin." The room fell silent. Marcus swallowed hard. "We need to move. If they're onto us, this tower ain't safe. They'll come here first." Keisha's jaw tightened. "Then we take the fight even bigger. We don't just leak the files, we go live. We put our faces on it. Make it impossible for them to erase us." The group froze. "Go live?" Donnell echoed. "Like to admit it was us." "Yeah," Keisha said firmly. "They're already blaming us. Might as well own it. If we speak straight to the cameras, show the truth, they can't spin it anymore." Jamal's chest thudded. He thought of his mama's tired eyes, Malik's laughter, the way his whole life had been lived under those harsh lights. He took a deep breath. "Then that's what we do. Tonight, the lights don't just speak the code. Tonight, they speak our voices." Marcus looked at him, astonished. "You mean broadcast you through the lamps?" Jamal nodded. "Let Pinewood, and the world, hear us for real." The crew exchanged tense glances. And then, one by one, they nodded. It was reckless. Dangerous. But it was the only way forward. That night, the lamps did not speak code. They spoke Jamal. They spoke Keisha. They spoke Donnell. They spoke every kid who had ever walked home under a light that burned brighter for their skin. Marcus had reprogrammed the entire network. Instead of broadcasting the old, hateful lines of code, every streetlight in Pinewood flickered once, twice, then began to play a recording. Not a glitch. A message. It began with Jamal's voice. Strong. Clear. Shaking just a little, but not with fear. "My name is Jamal Carter. I live right here in Pinewood. And these lights were never meant to protect me. They were meant to watch me." Then Keisha's voice followed. "They said it was about safety. But safety for who? When the lights brighten for our skin, that's not safety. That's control." Then Donnell, raw and real. "We are not threats. We are kids. We walk home. We laugh loud. We run sometimes. And that's not a crime. One by one, the lights told the truth. Every corner. Every block. Even the mayor's house. Even the sheriff's porch. Cars stopped in the middle of the road to listen. People came out of their homes, phones in hand, filming. Some cried. Some cursed. Some just stood, finally hearing what they had never wanted to face. The lights were speaking. And for once, Pinewood was listening. The next morning, the world knew their names. News vans lined the edge of town. Activists poured in. Civil rights lawyers set up offices in borrowed classrooms. The Department of Justice opened an investigation into Bright Future's contracts. Mayor Clark resigned. Sheriff Rowland retired. And the entire streetlight system was shut down pending review. Bright Future's stock plummeted. They issued another statement full of corporate sorrow, polished words, and promises of equity audits. But the world wasn't buying it anymore. Because this time, kids from a forgotten southern town had proved the bias. And they'd done it in a way nobody could ignore. Not with lights. Not with code. But with truth. On the last day of summer, Jamal stood at the corner of Lincoln and Birch. The same pole that once spotlighted him like a suspect was now just a quiet, unlit post. He looked up at it and smiled. Not because everything was fixed. Not because racism had disappeared. But because he knew now his voice mattered. And it had reached farther than he'd ever imagined. Keisha joined him, holding 2 snow cones. "Still feels weird without the lights," she said. "Yeah," Jamal nodded. "But better weird than watched." Donnell rolled up on his bike, grinning. "Yo, you'll see we're trending again." Marcus jogged up behind him, waving his phone. "Somebody just turned our speeches into a remix. It's on TikTok now." They laughed. Not because the fight was over, but because they weren't alone anymore. Later that evening, as the sun dipped behind the trees, Jamal sat on his porch beside his mama. She held his hand the way she did when he was little, when he had nightmares about shadows. "I'm proud of you, baby," she whispered. Jamal looked out over Pinewood. He saw neighbors talking. He saw strangers hugging. He saw people seeing each other in a new light. "It's not perfect," he said. "No, it's not," she agreed. "But now it's honest. And that's where change starts." He smiled. And for the first time in a long time, the night felt safe. Not because of the lights, but because of the people waking up beneath them.